Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a pretty full game slate here on Monday night, Nate, in the NBA. Do want to make sure you're liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We're bringing you these game videos and our player props videos each and every weekday of this regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great content that you can follow along all season long. Also have our great odds finder tool on there, so you can go ahead and make sure you are shopping those lines to the best of your ability across those U.S. sports books. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this full game slate on Monday night.
Yeah, 8 games here on Monday. Really the nice sweet spot in terms of finding your best bets and DFS picks, to be honest. But I'll run through the lines real quick here. Pacers are plus 12 at the Sixers, who are 0-3, but I don't think we trust the Pacers to try to win games necessarily, so that explains that line. Magic plus 7.5 at the Knicks. The Raptors are plus 3.5 at Heat. Jazz minus 1.5 at Rockets. We'll get into that game here in a minute. Brooklyn plus 1 at Memphis. Totals 233, and we break that one down for you in a separate video. We got Celtics minus 6 at the Bulls. The Spurs are plus 8.5 at Wolves. That spread's crept down a little bit since the Wolves played last night. And then the Nuggets minus 5 at the Blazers, who are also on their third game in 4 nights here, but we're looking at Jazz and Rockets, and the we're not tanking Jazz. Everybody kind of making fun of Danny Ainge for claiming that, but really that's been their approach. They are absolutely trying to win games here. They have some pieces. I mean, there might have been some questions about how it fits together, but really just don't underestimate the heart of giving a shit at the beginning of the NBA season, apparently, is they are 3-0. They're coming off an overtime win here at NOLA, in which both Zion and Ingram got hurt. So I'm not necessarily saying that Utah is as good as 3-0 and is going to be there all season, but I am saying that they can beat the freaking Rockets, who are not trying to win at all whatsoever, and they're only plus 1.5 here. They've lost 10 straight games going back to last season, and they're completely fine with that. I mean, they are well immersed in the Wembanyama Scoot sweepstakes here. You look at their defense this year is just non-existent. Last year was also about 29th or 30th in every category, but this year so far, dead last in efficiency, in assist to turnover ratio allowed, 29th in points allowed, 29th in opponent shooting, and 28th in fast break points. Utah has been pushing the pace. They're 11th in fast break points. They're number 1 in three-pointers right now. They have these guys off the bench, Josh, who didn't play that much, even though it was an overtime game. And, they're not the veterans. I would expect Mike Conley to, if he's active, to take kind of a back seat here tonight. But Colin Sexton played just 19 minutes off the bench. Talen Horton-Tucker played 9 minutes. Jared Vanderbilt, 28 minutes because he was in foul trouble. So these young guys can come out and match Houston, and they still have more talent. I mean, they could roll out their second unit against Houston, and you might say that they have more talent than Houston, which is really just, let's see what we have in Jalen Green. And that's really the point of their season, is to see what he can do with the ball in his hands almost every single possession. And it's pretty exciting. I think his prop is only 23.5 points, and I definitely don't hate that. Utah right now, the highest scoring team in the league, also very high in terms of the points they're allowing as they ramp up that pace. So I think there's some props to look for here if you can angle based on the minutes projections after the Jazz played into overtime last night. So I think that's where you look for here. But I think Utah is still trying to win. Houston not trying to win.
Yeah, I mean that seems fair. Like you said, I think if you're prioritizing Houston's objectives this season, it's make Jalen Green an all-star, make it so that Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Sengun, right, and their top draft pick, Jabari, right, make sure that they can all play together, and we have like a nucleus here, and really that like attitude wise and locker room wise, that we just all get along and that we make it through the season intact, ready to pick up another piece next year as well. So those are their goals, not to necessarily win basketball games, although I do think they'll fight here and there. I don't love the fact that Utah did come off that win, and really it was a win that took a lot out of it. It had to. They were up 17 in that game originally against those Pellies, and then the Pellies with their bench after their stars got hurt, like you said, they came all the way back, put it into overtime. It's still very impressive the way that they won because of the fact that they gave up that huge lead. They had to go play in overtime, and they still stuck with it. And that's because this team it might be weirdly built, as you said, but like it's kind of perfectly built for the NBA in 2022, 2023 this year. When you look at, a great example is Lauri Markkanen, who we've always known could play in this league and could be a very efficient scorer and solid big man front court player. But then even when he got the opportunity on Cleveland, it was like you're sticking him on a roster that has two other 7-footers in the starting in the lineup with Jared Allen and Mobley. That's not going to work for Markkanen. You put him in this lineup now. He's a big small forward, if you will, on a team where the other two guys are Jared Vanderbilt and Kelly Olynyk, slightly undersized for a 4 and 5. He's able to like have a little bit more space down low because Kelly Olynyk's coming out to the 3-point line a ton. It's just really working with what they're doing. Tall guys who are athletic, can shoot, and can do multiple things, a lot of different things from every position, from Clarkson to Olynyk, Markkanen, Vanderbilt, all four of those guys. And then, even Rudy Gay, Walker Kessler, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Colin Sexton. That's a very, very good bench, and it's a very tall bench for each of those guys, specific to their position. They're all big body guys that can come in and switch. So they're doing some really good stuff. And as you probably know, Will Hardy's a very, very good coach coming over. Danny Ainge plucked him from the Celtics, and he's putting things into perspective for them. They've even got Malik Beasley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker that they can throw in there when they need to. So they're deep, they're stacked. It's interesting. Their 3 through 10 is way better than the Lakers 3 through 10. And that's really seems to be a huge reason for why this team is as good as it is. Lakers are as bad as they are. So you talk about everything that they've done well. It's really, really impressive. Like you said, number one, points per game, assists per game, 3-pointers made and attempted. They've got a very clear identity here. And with the way the Rockets are playing defense, it's going to need to be that Utah has very, very tired legs, which I don't think we're worried about. I just named you 10 dudes that are in their rotation that can easily play in the NBA on any rotation right now. So you've got to feel better about this team. I think they're still being undervalued. If they hadn't just played an overtime game, the spread would probably be closer to 5. It's at 2. So I'm not going to be worried about the back-to-backs and still feel really good about Utah being a much better team than the Rockets.
Yeah, and you'd have to expect the Rockets to exploit that back-to-back in some way, and there's not enough experience on this team, or frankly the coaching staff, to know how to do that. So Utah, like you said, very well coached. Will Hardy. It's the Celtics coaching tree that's starting to blossom here across the league. We could see more guys emerge from that. Joe Mazzulla obviously doing a great job, but they're 7th in opponents' 3-point shooting, which is key when you go up against Houston.
Right.
Right. And not committing turnovers and not giving a young team that easy run out opportunity. Also have a huge advantage in the paint because, like you said, they have Markkanen, Olynyk. They can go inside and out. Jared Vanderbilt is basically a non-scorer, so he's kind of that slasher dunker spot guy to space that out for them, and that front court is working. You mentioned Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He might have to play here if Conley winds up sitting, or they need to just give him some rest because he's obviously very old. And but they have plenty of guards to just go around and keep pace with this Rockets team. So I think we can get one more win out of these Jazz before we start to fade them eventually. I'm not saying that they're going to be great all year.
Yeah, no, eventually. But you know what? Like, is it going to shock you if they win 35 games and are like an 11 seed in the West, potentially even get a play-in? It's not going to shock me anymore, right, at this point, because we're all waiting for teams like the Lakers to start getting back to what we think they're going to be. We are who they thought they were, right? And what you said that's the most important is Utah is in the top 5 in defending the 3-pointer. They're in the top 5 in shooting the 3-pointer. Right, Mike Budenholzer is watching from Milwaukee with absolute admiration over what the Jazz are doing right now. As that's his game plan every season as well. So I really like what they're doing. I think all of their players are also very high IQ, intelligent players. It's honestly a little bit reminiscent of the Warriors when you look at a center playing the high post like Kelly Olynyk, a guy in the 3 in marketing who's actually asked to do a little bit more the way a la Draymond Green on offense. So I just really like the way it's put together. And while they might not be, in the top of the standings the way they are right now for the rest of the season, if you can defend the 3 and score the 3 and have that many bodies, once again, all these guys playing 22 to 25 minutes, why would you be worried about them playing on a back-to-back? They're not like running them ragged to like 35 minutes at all. So I really love what this team is doing right now. And we owe them a little bit of an apology. They're not the worst roster. The Spurs kind of still seem like the worst roster, even though they're doing all right themselves so far. But either way, this one is still plenty of value for Utah. So that's where we're looking. And that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with all these game videos and our player props video each and every weekday. And until we see you next, happy betting.